I was around 16 or 17 when it finally ended, the sexual abuse with my mother.
What's the appeal in a grown man or woman with a kid?
Many of us fall into these relationships that are literally just repeating trauma when you're an adult. But once you do, it's like, what was I even scared of?
Welcome to Ted Ted, everybody, a place for hope, truth, and healing. And today I have a very special guest I'm interviewing today. And I've been super excited for, I guess, about a week and a half or so since I got in touch with her. And she said she would be delighted to come on the podcast. And as I've been telling everybody, this is the kind of voices that we need to come out and shed light onto the problem of CSA or SA. So it's a huge problem. So my goal is to keep bringing guests just so we can keep raising awareness. So without further ado, what I would like to do is, before I even introduce my guest, so I want to give you a little background of who she is. Today I'm interviewing Juliette Angelo. So she is an actress. A singer and a songwriter.
Of Miss Juliette Angelo.
Oh, say, can you see? 8 p.m. knocking on my door. Sitting sober is such a lonely chore.
And a really, really good one at that too. But that's not all. She is also known for very prominent roles that she's played on. She played Emily Farnell on NCIS, Neva on Shameless, Reba McEntire's daughter June on ABC's Malibu Country. But that's not all of it. Her resume is a lot longer than that. She is also she's been in a lot, numerous film and shows. Mad Men. So if you've heard of Mad Men, she's in that. The Trial for the Chicago 7, she's also in that. Grey's Anatomy, she's in that. Criminal Minds, she's in that, and a lot more. So I can go on and on. So what I would like everybody to do, give it time. It might not apply to you, but it applies to somebody, and you can make a difference. I've already talked too much. Let me introduce Juliette, since we're going to be doing a lot of talking. Juliette, thank you so much for taking the
I know
time.
we're going to be doing a lot of talking.
Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And I know we're going to get into a lot of stuff. I wanted to give the viewers a different perspective of CSA. So I'll talk about myself. I wanted to bring you in and give you a perspective, give you views, and see if we can raise some awareness, shed some light into the darkness, and help people move forward. Juliette, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, you found me off of TikTok. Is that how it was?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
That's the first person, like the first opportunity that's come from TikTok.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So when I post on TikTok, I'm posting very deliberately about things that I feel like could help people. And every once in a while, people will just like open up and share, and which is how I found you. So I post about ESA, and you had your comment in there. I was like, wow, I gotta talk to her. She is definitely sounds like somebody who has a lot to say. And again, I didn't even know about everything that you have done, like your resume, and it's pretty impressive.
I've had a crazy life. It's been really amazing. I did a podcast recently, Warrior of Truth, with my friend Kelly Dillon. That's where I like shared my whole story. But she posted a couple clips, and the first one she posted went crazy viral. Like I was never expecting that. It got over 1 million views. It was, I mean, that to me is crazy viral. I know in like this day and age.
Hey, that is to me too, because I'm just getting started. So, that is, that's pretty crazy.
Like for
Yeah.
that topic to be talking about,
Yeah.
I was talking about the abuse that I went through as a kid And for people to be that responsive, and I mean, the comments were like unbelievably supportive. There were so many people saying, me too, me too, me too, which was an amazing thing. But yeah, I mean, I think the social climate that we're in now is
Mhm.
definitely changing. I don't think there's nearly enough conversation still about like child
Mhm.
sexual abuse,
Mhm.
especially incest, because that's more what I was involved in. Uh,
Okay.
but it's still very taboo, and I think, like, creators like you who are using their platform to educate people, it's just so important because I don't want, my future kids, I don't want this conversation to be something that's like, "Hush, hush, you're not supposed to talk about these things. Because how else do we stop this and
Yep.
prevent it
Mhm.
from happening,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So, I don't know, we could kinda just get into a little bit of my life, and I know you
Sure.
reached out to me about, like, I would love to talk about how, as I've gotten older, what I kinda dealt with as a young woman and, like, the after effects. I know that's kinda what you messaged me about because I think that's something too that, like,
Mhm.
very confusing,
Yeah.
kind of how you
Yeah.
move on from experiences like that and try and have a healthy relationship with
Yes.
intimacy.
Yes.
Um that's a whole other beast, but
Whole other beast. Yes, I agree. I agree.
it's definitely something, I mean, especially as a man, I know that there's just such an impossible conversation about sexual abuse. It's just
Mhm.
so taboo. It's ridiculous how
Yes.
much it's just supposed to be swept under the rug. So,
Mhm.
I don't know, I could just kinda talk about my life, and go from there if that sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. But right before you do that, let me just second that. So I don't think that point can be emphasized enough.
Mhm.
As men, we don't like to talk about our feelings, right? We don't like it doesn't matter if it's destructive, it doesn't matter if it's not conducive to our well-being. We just don't like to talk about it. For example, myself, I was born in Haiti. So it's I was raised in a culture that, if you fall and you get a boo-boo, your parents are like, get up, you good. Don't cry about it. It's all good. Your feelings, don't even talk about that because no one's really gonna listen. And a lot of it was not it's not all their fault because they didn't care, they didn't want to listen, but a lot of it coming from a third world country, everybody has so much on their minds at any given time, thinking about like how we're going to feed the kids tomorrow, how we're going to stay safe here, how we're going to do this. So then all those other issues, they kind of take the back seat. And meanwhile, there's a lot happening, but they don't even realize because it's just they don't have time to think about all that stuff, right? So they're focusing on like the things that they think matter the most. But meanwhile, things like, sexual abuse are taking
Right,
place at any given time. So yeah, so men, we're just, knuckleheads. You know what I mean? So we just like suffer in silence. But not just us. For this particular topic, I think that's a theme where people just suffer in silence because they don't think there is hope. They don't think it's even possible to come out and say what's been done, which is
mm,
why, again, you and I are talking today and just trying to make it a little bit more mainstream because it's time that, this kind of stuff doesn't just stay taboo or stay in the shadow, just keep lurking in the shadow, but it's out there. People know about it, parents know about it, victims know that they can come out and talk about it. And we just kind of head on, we attack it.
right. We're in a very privileged position to even be able to talk about it too, like
100%.
even be able to like have the space and time to communicate these things and not
Hmm.
be stuck in like survival mode every single day is
Yeah.
also something I just want to mention because like I had a really corrupt and dark childhood, but I'm very grateful for my life today. It's not something, it's something that I deal with every day, but I don't feel the weight and pain of it like I used to. Uh,
Hmm.
when I first went into recovery, which was around 4 years ago now, which is crazy to think about, like, how time flies,
Yeah.
but I definitely don't feel nearly as heavy as I did, like, back then, and,
Hmm.
so much of my life, as I know so many of us, like, experience was just I felt like I was never connected to planet Earth, like, I was just going about my days just locked in this like in between state of living because I couldn't come to terms what had happened to me and I was still actively living with my abuser. So my brain was just kind of stuck in this like in between kind of floating disassociative
Yeah.
states. And so many people live like that and they don't even know. And it's because of trauma. And you're just like, you've had experiences that have kind of brought you to a different plane of living. And
Yeah.
that's how you had to cope for
Yeah.
so long. But the first thing, like when I fully accepted what had happened to me and I went into recovery, I mean, it just changed my life. And I felt like I had like, as painful as it was,
Yeah.
I felt like I had 2 feet planted firmly on the ground for, like, the first time in my life. And I think that's important because a lot of people don't want to go into trauma work because they're scared. But in reality, like, it's very scary, but you have to in order to be able to, like, move forward,
Hmm.
a fulfilling life and
Yes.
really know who you are, and then not, like, repeat that cycle with your children one day. And it's a really complicated process, but, I'm very grateful for, like, everything that has happened in the process. But yeah, before I mean, I'll talk a little bit about my life. I just
Mhm.
wanna protect you legally because I have an insane family that I told you about.
Yes. Yes. You did.
Everything's alleged that I'm saying. My friend Kelly Dillon, she's a journalist. She's like, "Just throw the word alleged in, they can't do anything." And I was
The
like,
sour
"Okay."
butt, huh? Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, allegedly." Which does I mean, that's also something too, like, for people who wanna come forward and talk about stuff
Yeah.
publicly, you're saving grace.
Hmm.
Just say the word allegedly. I know some people are like, "Well, that feels like I'm discrediting myself." It's you're just protecting yourself. Like, that's it. If you're going up against people who are in power and who can do things to you, just protect yourself legally by covering yourself in that way, and it'll save you the headache of having to go through a defamation case, which I know so many people have. My friend went up against a whole Catholic church in Tennessee. And yeah, crazy. And
That's
wound up winning but it does kind of save you that
yeah.
a little bit of a headache. But not I'm past that at this point in my life. Like I don't my family can't do anything, and that's the other thing I think that's really hard about being a survivor is that you kind of have these like mental holds and
Hmm.
that psychological hold where you think they can still hurt you because
Yes.
of how they've groomed you to feel, which is
Mm.
why so many people don't speak up because like you still have that childlike view of these people. Like my mom was the scariest person in the world. Like I was absolutely terrified of my mother, and I was just so terrified of her. She could just turn on a dime. And now that I'm 26, I'm like the way that they plant these seeds in your brain from such a young age, it is so hard to break free from that when you're an
Yes.
adult. But
Yeah.
once you do, it's like, what was I even scared of? The weakest people abuse children because they're the most vulnerable, individuals on this earth are just kids.
Yeah. No, that's always the case. That's always the case because if you read some of the stats, one of them is the perpetrators. They always target families without a strong dad or a strong like.
Yeah.
I don't want to say just dad. I mean, dad is the main one,
Right.
but if the mom, like your mom, might have been, very strong and kind of like this is my cub, don't even get close type of mom, like if you don't even have that as a mom and the dad's not there, it's just like open season because that's their end. They just feel like, hey, I'm just gonna prey on them. And then what they do, they just it's like an indoctrination where you feel like this is it. So like you've gone in this door, you can't come out. And to
Yeah.
come out, it's such a just such an insurmountable task that it's not even worth doing. You might as well just stay there and try to cope with it, and this is gonna be the rest of your life type of thing. So it really is sickening, you know?
And the Stockholm syndrome too that you have, because my dad, like still to this day, I'm 26. I'm 4 years sober. Like I have done so much work. I've been in a, real relationship too with a real man. And like
Mhm.
to this day, I still find it so hard to accept that my dad did anything wrong, which goes to show like that level of grooming, just when they convince you that what they're doing is love. And it is, and for some reason, my mom, I had so much hatred and anger for her,
Hmm.
but my dad, I had this just like this intense almost guilt when I admitted what he had done to me. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because, that father-daughter relationship, or if it's because out of everyone in my family, he's the only one that has really shown remorse for anything that has happened. But I know that so many other survivors feel the same way, where you're almost like you're scared to come forward because you don't want to show their true colors. You don't want to show what these people have done, because it's so hard when you've like created this image of them
Hmm.
from when you're a kid, and be like, my dad was like the most handsome, wonderful man.
Hmm.
And it's like he doesn't even look the same. When I went into recovery, my mom and my dad, like, they didn't even look how I remembered them from when I was a kid. And
Hmm.
it's because your brain like protects this image of them to make them almost seem safer or gentler or kinder. It's so insane how
Yeah.
our brains will like protect us in these experiences.
Yeah.
My dad was the hardest one for me for some reason. Like, it just still to this day, it's incredibly hard for me to accept him and his behavior and what he did. And I think it is because he had a level of remorse to him. But I found that, as we were talking about like how this affects us as we get older in life, I literally tried to heal him through my past relationship. Like, that was the entire when I was with my ex, that was basically what I was doing.
Mm.
And I remember having that moment and looking at my ex-boyfriend and understanding that I was literally just trying to heal my dad through him,
Wow.
and still stayed because I shoved it down, and I was like, "No, no, no, like, that's the trauma speaking, like, that's not real."
Yeah.
No, that was 150%
Yeah.
what I was doing. But
Yeah.
so many of us fall into these relationships that are literally just repeating trauma.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
It
Yeah.
isn't. It is crazy. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, yeah, so that was last year, was my first relationship ever. So my abuse went into my late teenage years,
Mm.
and I was around 16 or 17 when it finally ended, the sexual abuse with my mother. So I grew up, we had one identity. Like, I the incestuous relationship I had with her was like, it was not just sexual, it was so emotional too, because we had one identity.
Mm.
My mom was the one who really pushed me into acting as well, and wanted to live vicariously through everything I was doing, which is a whole other beast.
Yeah.
Parent in Hollywood. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I'd love to
Unbelievable.
talk to you about that too, because I have so much.
Please do.
Yes. I would love to
Please do.
talk about
I have been shitlisted from Hollywood. No one wants me. I am more than happy. The whole industry is devilish and insidious, and it's overrun by child predators.
the amount of people who have said that online and everywhere. So, how about this? Little sidebar.
Yeah.
Can we please get back on here and then specifically talk about Hollywood, how the
Love to.
pedophile kind of like is just
Would love
disgusting.
to.
That's a shame.
Next week. I swear to
Absolutely.
God.
Okay. Let's
I
do it.
love I think it is so important, and I also think if you're a part of the industry and not talking about that, you are part of the problem, because there's
100%.
there's no way that you can. I wasn't even that famous. Like, I did a lot of television, like a lot of people knew me, but I was not walking red carpets. Oh my gosh, Juliette Angelo. Like, I wasn't even at that level. And what I experienced and what I saw was enough for me to never in a million years ever want to put my child in that world.
Wow.
Ever.
That's
Ever.
incredible.
But yeah, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. That's one of my biggest, I'm so passionate about talking about that, because I think the arts are very important with children, and there's a safe way to do it. I don't think that safe way is moving to Los Angeles and trying to be a superstar. Like, that's
No,
community theater. Like, keep them at home. You don't need to be doing that.
yeah, no, absolutely not. I agree.
Yeah, just crazy. But to get back to my mom, that abuse with her kind of ended around like 16, 17. This is sexual abuse, but
Mhm,
the like emotional and psychological abuse, I would say it's honestly like still ongoing. Like, I don't know how you ever really get away from that when you've had things planted in your brain from when you were a child. Like, I still to this day will have like her voice pop up in my head about certain things and be like, no, that's not me. That's my mom, think about yourself in that way.
mhm,
And I noticed that a lot with my work ethic too, where I just got myself sick again because I was working myself to death. And
mm,
that's something too I was taught from a very young age. Anyway, my mom's abuse, the sexual abuse kind of ended around 16, 17, but the psychological and emotional abuse was ongoing. And I think because of my childhood and the things that I experienced and all the sexual abuse, I mean, I was just biologically all completely out of whack. So I didn't have like any healthy relationships with boys my own age. Nothing like that. Like, everything was so convoluted and dark. And I think that's why I'm very grateful. Like, it took me until I was, how old was I? 23 when I met I'm 25. Yeah. So I was 23 when I met my ex. And that was my first like official boyfriend.
mhm,
But I wish I could say that it was like a beautiful, healthy relationship. It was absolutely not. Like, in no way,
yeah,
shape, or form.
right.
Everybody warned me. They were like, when you come from a certain type of childhood, you will most likely meet a certain type of man who will kind of love bomb you at first, get you where they want you, and then kind of do whatever.
Mhm,
And I was so adamant and confident that that was, like, never gonna be me. That was so stupid. That's exactly what happened. Literally exactly what happened. But I think that that's really important because so many young women fall into that trap. I mean, why are 19-year-olds dating 40-year-old men? Like, that's just not
yeah,
anything
that's
that should be celebrated or normalized in any
ever,
capacity.
ever, ever.
I'm 26. I couldn't even look at a 19-year-old guy. Like, why is a 40-year-old man trying to date someone who's, like, freshly legal? That's insane.
It is insane. It is insane. And the excuse, I mean, of course, people have excuse for everything. That doesn't make them right, you know? So like the excuse from them would be, hey, we have money and we can do whatever. So that's one. So if they're willing and they want our money, we know that they want our money, so we're just going to do it. But that's not ethical. There's no value in that. Like, you can't, like, the moment somebody sees you, they can already tell what is going on there. There's no
Mhm.
love. There's no like true emotion stuff like that. It's just like a transaction. It's very transactional, right? So it's ridiculous. I have 3 daughters, so that will
Wow.
yes, yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I have 3 daughters. So that kind of stuff, it really makes me angry to see, just to see it. And I know my daughters won't ever. If it's up to me, that will never ever happen. If they listen to what I'm telling them, what their mom's telling them, that will never happen. So I'm not even worried about it in that sense. And with the values and that we're raising them with, that kind of stuff will never be appealing to them.
Mhm.
It's not the money. It's certainly not the look. So they're never going to do that if they, if we keep doing a good job, which I think we are. But
Well, that's the thing too, is there's such a lack of values nowadays as well. And I think that's such a complicated conversation because so many people just I like love and hate social media, and I didn't have it for a long time.
same, the same way.
When I got sober, I deleted everything. I deleted like, I just focused on myself for 2 years. People thought I died. Like, I literally just wiped myself off the face of the planet.
Full turkey.
And now that I'm back on it, I came back on it when I did my initial podcast, Hope is the Bird, took all that down. And now that I'm back on it, I kind of established myself first just like as a human because it was that podcast it went crazy. And I don't know, now I'm like more of a fully established individual as opposed to somebody who was just like, here's all my trauma
Yeah.
later, but now that I'm back on it, oh my gosh, the things that you see online and the things that we're trying to normalize and like seem okay, and this hookup culture that's going on is so toxic, and it's honestly, it really affects me. Like, I'm a single woman, I'm 26. I would love to get married and start a family one day. It's just it's very confusing and difficult because you see, like, it is so rare to find positive influences, especially with relationships online. And
Yes.
then if you do find them, they get completely attacked. They get so attacked. They're like, "Save this woman,
Yeah.
you know,
I
she's suffering."
I think, yeah, normalcy is under attack. I think, like straight up biblical values are under attack. I mean, not even just biblical values. Like I say that because I'm a Christian, so I'm a man of faith. So I hold biblical values, very dear to me, and that's how we kind of run our household. But and that's how I treat people. But put that aside, I think the stuff that we've been seeing the past few years, to me, I don't know if I've seen it that. I don't know if I've ever seen the water that murky before. Like where whatever we used to know as normal, all the fundamentals, all the basic things, they're all kind of being questioned, and not just like little hesitant, like, hey, that might be this might be that. It's just full on, this was this, we think it should be this. I mean, we don't
Mhm.
even need to go into details. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like normalcy has been just under attack where you cannot just be normal and be happy with normal. And you have other people not really just questioning that. Like which blows my mind because like I feel like it's as simple as like 2 plus 2 is 4. You're gonna have
Right.
people say like 2 plus 2 is 2.5 or 3.5. I mean, for as long as we've known, it's been 4. So like, why do we have to change it now? And you want to change it, but you don't have enough to back it up. It's like, I don't know. It's like crazy land to me. It's like La La Land.
Well, it's so, everything's so over sexualized as well, and it's coming
100%. Yes.
directly out of Hollywood. I mean, I grew up in that world, so, like, I know this is the truth. Like, it's I experienced it growing up. I mean, I was
Mhm.
auditioning for sex scenes when I was a teenager. Like, that
That's
should not even
terrible.
be
Wow.
something that's even that's not even, like, that shouldn't even be legal. Like, that's great. It's child pornography.
It should be illegal. It should be
Yeah,
illegal.
it's
And it is
illegal.
illegal, but it's like some people get a pass. Hollywood gets a huge
Hollywood gets a huge pass.
yeah.
It's so over sexualized, and I think, I do not participate at all in hookup culture. That is not I'm not even I
Good for
don't even
you.
date anyone. The only person I was ever willingly with was my ex, and besides that, like, when I broke up with him and I left, like, I do not date, I don't engage, but that's the normal. Like, when I go out, that's the normal. It's not a guy, wanting to take me on a couple dates and get to know me. It's like, take me on a date and then get me to come back to your house. And that's the craziest thing to me.
So listen, so again, I've been married for going into 7 years and I have 4
Yes.
beautiful kids. So we just had twins, right? So
Oh my gosh.
what you
That's
thought,
so
like,
exciting.
thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So this is why, like, I love this, right? A lot of people, this is not what you would call negativity. So therefore it won't sell. It might not go viral. It might not get a lot of views, but it's fine with me because at the end of the day, we're having that conversation. The people who will see it, it will
Mhm.
change their lives because it's good for people to know that despite everything that they're seeing on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, and the movies, Hollywood, this is just those powerful people who are trying to make you think that this is the route that you should go. But at
It's
the
so
end of the day, there are
it's
so many of us, like you, me wanting to take the route of being married and have kids and have a family and raise my kids and keep my kids away from all this filth of Hollywood and everything else. You knowing exactly what you want, this is so admirable because as you were saying that, I'm just like this, I'm just super happy. It's not just like as a dad, like where I want my daughters and my son. It's not like a one-way street. Like I want my son and my daughter to be like respectful and to want values out of people. You know what I mean? So You saying that, you don't know how much power that, I mean, I'm sure you do. It just holds a lot of weight. There's a lot of power into young woman like yourself just speaking value, speaking, hey, this hookup culture, it's
In
not
your
for me,
body.
you know?
Well, what's so and to get kind of, I understand where it comes from as well.
Mhm.
And when you look at the statistics of sexual abuse,
Yes.
first of all, they're inaccurate. They're probably
Way worse
way
than that.
because the average age, I think I saw that people come forward about child sexual abuse, if they ever do, is 53. So that is like already, I'm sure the statistics are way off. I know that they are.
Mhm.
But when you're taught from such a young age, the first time I was raped by a man, I was 8 years old. So when you're taught from that young of an age and you're introduced to sexuality from that young of an age, you're just going to grow up to not have respect for yourself or your body because it's been literally ripped away from you from when you were a child. And that is why, like, I don't look at people in hookup culture and think that they're disgusting or gross, or I understand where this comes from. I
Mhm.
get it. Like, I understand that
Very good.
it's a need for validation. It's a way to try and heal something. The most promiscuous people I have ever met, the most hypersexual people I've ever met come from an incredible amount of sexual abuse. That's
Mm.
just the way that goes.
Mhm.
So I think that's the part of the conversation that I I do get upset with because I'm like, we don't solve anything by just being angry at each other. Like we have to
Yeah.
look
That's
at
fair. Yeah, I agree.
reality of what's going on here and why are so many young people growing up to not respect their bodies and not respect themselves.
Mhm.
And it's because of what they're being taught at a young age and what they're absorbing and what they're watching and pornography and the things that like just are not at all something any of us should be ingesting. I had a complete porn addiction from my teenage years up till my early 20s. It was like all I wanted to watch 24/7 and it was a way to cope
Mm.
with everything I had went through as a kid.
Mhm.
That's not healthy.
No.
And the fact that people are trying to normalize it is really scary because why? Like, why are we trying to normalize so many things that should be such a red flag for sexual abuse? Why are we normalizing these topics? And that for me is what I'm very passionate about because I'm not the type of person that's going to run around and yell at people and get angry. Like I am from New Jersey. I do have a temper. Like that
Yeah.
is who I am. But at the end of the day, it's sad. It's sad that women are only finding their worth by being sexual beings. That's very sad. That's not at all how I think we should behave. And I don't think it's healthy. And I don't, as much as you want to convince yourself that like it's helping and that's who you want to be, how many women have we seen come out of, working OnlyFans pornography industry come out and say, it is just so dark and twisted and insidious. And it's trafficking. I mean, it's human trafficking where so many of these girls are so young, falling victim to this industry, and people will convince you of anything to make money off of you. And that's the one thing I learned from Hollywood is that they will convince you that you are, the most incredible, wonderful, amazing, most beautiful person in the world just to get money off of you. Like
Yes.
that's the only reason. And then as soon as your value is up, they will throw you to the wolves and then you're left to just, deal with it yourself. But there's so many things that I see. And I think a big I don't know if we want to like really go into this, but with OnlyFans and I go on TikTok and the amount of creators that will pop up that are like promoting their movies and they are 19, 20 years old is like mind blowing. And it's so sad. And I think it's also so dangerous to have so many young people on an app like that watching these girls and having them encourage them to behave this way and do this and open an account for money because look at my life. I have a G-Wagon, I have a
Yeah.
$20 million mansion, and all I have to do is just send some guys some videos. Like it's not a big deal. And it is a big deal. Like, it's such a big deal. It's so I am, besides like the sexual part of things, which is, I think, so detrimental for
Sure.
our souls and our
Yes.
identities generally.
Yes.
I am not even that famous anymore. Like, I was on TV freaking 5 years ago. People still know me, but I am not somebody who is actively like on television, that type of thing. These women, these OnlyFans accounts, like these women who are super famous, they've all talked about this, how dangerous it can be.
Yeah.
Just this week alone, I got 2 letters to my personal address in Montana from 2 men who used to watch me on television, sending printout photos of me saying if I could autograph them and send them back to them. Like, super creepy, very just, off-putting, very bizarre. Please don't do this. Think about the scale of, like, I was just a child actor. You're someone who is creating on an app. It's completely sexual. You're sending it to all these men that you don't know. That is literally so dangerous. They can find your personal address, follow you around. It is so, so incredibly dangerous. And I don't think that that is something that is like even talked about enough in
No,
this.
not at all. Not at all. I have a pretty good feeling that you and I were gonna do a lot more talking about
I'd love
everything
to.
because
I
this
love
is just to me again. Like I'm an old soul. Today is my birthday, so I just turned 35.
happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. But ever since I was, I don't know, in my teens, I've always had that mindset. I was more of like the mentor amongst my friends. Like I'm not sitting here telling you that I was a saint. Obviously, because
Right.
I also had a sexual abuse background, there are a lot of things that I certainly wasn't ready for. For me, it started at 6 years old. So it was in my book, shameless plug. So please buy my book. It will help
Yes.
you.
I will buy your book.
But and stay tuned. I'll let you know when it comes up. But it's just everything that you're saying here. So I don't know if you a Christian? Are you a believer? Or
I would say I'm probably more agnostic at this point in my life. I believe in God. I just, because of my childhood, there were so many, I had such a struggle with
Mhm.
religion and what I necessarily believed in, but like 150,000% believe in God, like
You're not
without a,
agnostic.
there's no, I don't know what I am. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of it, is that I believe in I feel the beauty of a higher power and like the peace and light and happiness that it brings me. And I love the like mentality of Jesus and how you love one another and treat each other, exactly the way that you would want to be treated. And you give everyone the love and kindness that they deserve, regardless of like what they come from. Like, that's something I 100,000% practice in my daily life, or try to.
Yeah.
But I'm on like a journey,
Hmm.
like I'm kind of
Yeah.
on, I think as I get older too, I'll kind of understand more. But I'm still pretty early on in recovery, and I've been in and out of so many different uh, situations and environments, but I would definitely say I'm on like a very big spiritual journey
Yeah.
right now.
Listen, I think not to get super off track, but like a lot of things that you've said so far in this podcast, the way that you talk, values that you hold, they are all biblical. People might try to tell you otherwise. People complicate this whole, I don't want to say religion. Religion is complicated.
Mm,
Walk with God it can be arduous, but it's pretty simple, right? And everything you just said there, that's basically the foundation. You treat
right.
each other the way you want to be treated. And that's basically the first step. Because
Mhm.
that's what Jesus said. Just love one another. We are all brothers and sisters. So the way you want to be treated, just treat people that way. Now, to segment two, back to what we were saying, I think everything you've been seeing in Hollywood, how they're trying to erase what's been normal for thousands of hundreds, if not thousands of years. They're trying to erode the brain of our children, just stealing their innocence with what they're putting out there in music videos and movies and just
Music.
pornography, everything, right? Whether it's the visual, they will get them. Whether it's the words, the lyrics, they will get them, right? So for somebody like myself, I feel the need to just shelter my kids, but I can't do that because I won't be able to do that even if I try. But at the same time, again, for any parents listening, sheltering your kids will never work because at some point they have to go out in this world,
It's
right?
more dangerous.
Exactly, right? So parents, and I preach about that like crazy on my TikTok channel, and I'll be doing a lot more on this channel. You have to inculcate the right values. You have to be there for your kids. Or else predators will just swoop in and do what they do. You
Have
gotta
you
be there.
seen that video, the Bark phones that they did
Mm,
about how these they created these fake Instagram accounts of children, and within like 45 seconds they had 10 men in their DMs, like
hmm,
asking where they went to school. And so they created these fake accounts for like an 8-year-old and I think a 15-year-old or something.
hmm.
Swarmed, like absolutely swarmed. And I also want to say men and women can abuse. I know we talk about
Absolutely.
men. Um, I feel like that's like it's dominated, with men and how good. As a young girl, I mean, I was not ever taught this, but they teach a lot about how like the creepy guy with the mustache and the glasses and
Sure.
like
It's the
that's the
stereotype.
stereotypical. But I like look at Hollywood. They're beautiful
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
God knows how many of them are pedophiles. I mean,
Yeah.
it's overrun by that. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something too that like there's no demographic, there's no age. It is anybody can abuse your child, like anyone can.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that as to what you've seen in Hollywood. I've never been. I was close to somewhat go, but I never got to it. And the taste, everything that I was seeing, I was just not very interested. But I think if you want to boil it down, who these people are, the people with influence, with power, the people who always promising you, hey, I can make you the biggest actor, the biggest actress, the biggest singer, and at this point, it's not even a secret. It's just a matter of just like selling their souls. Because like, people are not, just inherently bad. We're bad and good, but you choose which one you want to tap into, how you want to live your life. But the greed of fame, of money makes you, again, when you get there, I would argue if you also had a really strong background as far as like your parents, if they had taught you, instilled in you values, things to stay away from, I'm not saying it would never happen because people were still greedy. People were still just gravitating towards money and like the quick fame. Like it's like the microwave generation that we're in now. We want it now. We want it this moment. People might still do that. But I really think the amount of people, kids that could be molested, kids that would be taken advantage of would be significantly lower if parents did
Yes.
their jobs. That's
Like
just what I
100%. I was just about to say that. It was so funny, and then it came out of your
yeah.
mouth. I was like, "Oh my gosh." But it's so true because in any I grew up in the arts. I grew up in on Broadway and in Los Angeles, so, like, that was my background, but in any environment, they go for the most vulnerable, broken children. Like, that's just what they do. Predators, they have a sixth sense where they can just find that type of child. It's just you can
Vulnerability. They prey on
it's
that.
like
Hmm.
on their forehead.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it, is that if children come from a very strong background with parents who are protecting them and they have discernment and kids are able to have these conversations and hold these conversations with their, parents and are able to understand, if somebody does this to you, they're not allowed to and teach them boundaries.
Hmm.
Yes, of course. Like there would be they would be less susceptible
Yeah.
to happening to them.
Absolutely.
Obviously, like it can still happen because they are children and sometimes terrible things just happen, but they're not going to be, the broken child desperate for love who the first person who walks into their life and promises them the world. They're not going to go walk into their arms because they have that at home. They're seeking that out, which is, I think, a lot of cases. I think that's a lot of, children just trying to have love from someone, which is why sometimes they fall into the arms of a predator. I was born into, a family of them, but as I was introduced into different environments too, even though I was very much so ostracized as a kid. I mean, I was like, my mom kept me very much to herself and to my family. I was homeschooled, but when I was in theater and I was in television, it's labeled on my forehead, like absolutely labeled on my forehead, especially I don't remember a lot from my experience in theater, but there was one show in particular where like I remember always being in the men's dressing room and I was around like 9 or 10 years old. So once you have that labeled on your forehead, it is so easy to just be re-victimized over and over and over again because it's all you know.
Right.
Like it's been normalized,
Right.
I don't know. I know that there's again, the statistics are always wrong, but there is one that talks about like you are so much more likely to be re-victimized after it already happened because it's just
I
like
100%. That one, I think we can both attest to it because once it happened once, it's almost like they've broken the barrier. It's like so much. It's the mental. Like you are basically as strong as your mind tells you that you are. So like you think you can do this, you put your mind into it, most likely you will do it. It works the other way around too. So like if you are dealing with trauma and you keep telling yourself that I'm not worth it, I'm not worthy enough, I can't have that, like I've been ruined, like those things, they will always keep you exactly where you are. And where you are is the people who started it. And along with those types of people, you always gonna be like this shiny object because you're easy to get. You are vulnerable. You are naive. They can sell you anything and you will fall for it. And it's the cycle. It's a vicious cycle because again, that's why it's not mainstream. People are not talking about that. Like that when the whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal like broke out, like it was mainstream because it's not because
yeah,
he was the only one. And I mean, you hear about Diddy and stuff like it's because they've been trying to suppress it for so long. They
right.
couldn't believe that it actually made it to mainstream where everybody was talking about it. And so I want to ride that wave. I want to ride that wave where those people are being called out or being arrested or being punished for what they've been doing. I want to keep raising awareness to let people know there are many, many more Epsteins and Diddy's out there.
So many. There's so many. And that's the thing too, is that in a way, like the media will almost sensationalize it when, they're in your neighborhood. I mean, they live next door to you.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily on a private island.
Nope.
Like
No.
that's definitely a section of it. But like I came from I can't even say like upper middle. I don't even know how much money we had because it was so criminal. Like I would say the neighborhood I lived in was like upper middle class, Little Falls, New Jersey.
Mhm.
And the operations that were going on within my family, like they're right there. They're right in your neighborhood. Like they're a couple blocks from a a school. Like it's just I don't think people understand how close to home all of this is and like how a child who's going through this right now. And that was the only thing I get frustrated when I see stories like that sensationalized and stuff because I think people lose the humanity of it and the fact that like there are real children involved in this. Like there are real kids involved in this. And when I would speak out about my story, I would get some people reach out to me and be like, "Were you ever at a Diddy party? Did you ever meet Epstein?" And I'm like, "Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but it almost feels very dehumanizing, like, as a person to just kind of try to be attached to, like, these buzz names and stuff when there are real children and real women who have been involved in this and are terrified for their lives, and, I think it's such a confusing world because on one hand, everybody wants proof, and then on the other hand, women come forward and they're like, "You're crazy." It makes no sense. I'm like, "Do you want people what do you want? You say you want well, then you have a survivor say, 'Hey, I experienced this,' and then you're pointing fingers at them being like, 'You're crazy, you're lying.'"
Right.
So it just like, what is the goal here, you
It's
know?
like I think, I'll call it the enemy. So like those people who are doing those type of stuff, they love the confusion, right? They love when people are just confused, kind of running around, don't know who to believe, who to trust, they absolutely love it. So again, like whenever, at some point it was just, what was it? It was something about women, like they can just come out and then just say anything and just believe all women, right? Obviously there's no balance to that. So it might not be the case that a woman like actually deserve to be believed. They love that kind of stuff. Now it's like switching, like where what you just said, they don't believe you. Like you come out and talk about the stuff they don't. It's like they love all that stuff. When confusion sets in, then you don't know which way to go, and they create that. They created it, and so now
Right.
they kind of like they're gonna tell you like their own truth, which is their own lies to get you to get, it's I don't know, it's just disgusting to me. And again, like my last video that I just did, I said whatever the stats are telling you is 2 to 3 times worse than that. And I
Exactly.
come up with a few claims to back that up, and yeah, so like I try to do as much research as possible before I even even though I have a lot of opinions on different topics or subjects, I try to back it up with other facts, other like stuff that people are saying out there just so people really understand. Like I'm not just like I said in the last podcast, I don't like the spotlight. It's weird because I'm on here, I'm posting this on YouTube. I don't like social media. But I just
Yeah.
feel like it's more of a calling for me. I can't just sit here, live my life, and keep protecting my kids, which I will do, and I'll never stop doing that, protecting my family. And I feel like a conversation like that we're having could help somebody out there or could help a few hundred people, and I cannot live with that. That's why I have this podcast. And my wife and other people close to me have been telling me, you should start a podcast. You should, like, when we talk, I feel like people would benefit from that. And that gives me a lot of drive. And, and here we are. And I'm going to keep doing that until I don't need to do it anymore because I just feel like those kind of conversations, they need to be on YouTube and a lot more people. And it's not just me. I want a lot more people to be talking about like family values. I want a lot of people to be talking about like the degradation of society and how we can fix it and how there's so many pedophile predators out there lurking in the dark. Like keep your kids safe, be involved in your kids' lives. Don't just let them, hey, you going outside? All right, I'll see you later. You have your phone? All right, call me when you, no. Because when they do that, there are people ready to just like come in there and just start trying to tell them something that they don't need to hear. And kids are malleable. And it's easy to just like tell a kid, hey, listen, it's sun shining outside, so come out when it's actually raining. Those people, like there are just too many of them for me not to be doing this. You know what I mean? For me not to be talking about like values, about God. And I'm a Christian. I try not to just talk about Christianity so much, but whenever I see fit, I tell people what I believe in. If I'm talking like this, that's where my beliefs, that's where my ethics,
Right.
my values, they're rooted in a biblical view. So you may like it, you might not like it. That's okay. Not everybody's going to like you, but I'm going to tell you. I'm not just going to not tell you what I believe in. And so that's kind of, I think, those conversations, again, I'm being redundant, but like they're just very, very important to fight or to go against all these other nonsense channels talking about like very just disgusting
Well, we
things.
need good people in media. I mean, and that's why even when I came forward, I was like, we need my beliefs and like my life and how I live my life are not what is popular online, like at all. That is not, I don't see, I'm not on TikTok being like, I agree with them, and them. Like
I
it's
have
just
time for that.
not what's there. Like but it's also because, I think that that is why it's so important to have creators talking about conversations like this and having values and talking about trauma. And because so much of these behaviors that we see online, like there's a root to cause to all of this,
Mhm.
the over sexuality, all of these things that we see, like there's cause to it. And that conversation is a lot more difficult to have, but we need to have it in order to kind of clean up our society and our environment and the way that we treat ourselves and our bodies. And my biggest thing is, future generations and children in
Yeah.
particular. Like once you're over the age of 18, do whatever you want, but like, I'm not going to be teaching my children that this is the proper way to live your life, and this is the healthy way to live your life, and this is the safe way to live your life. Because as much as people online, they can try to convince you that they're happy, I lived like them.
Mhm.
So I know that you're not. Like, when you are putting more value in the way that you look over the way that you are as a person, in your soul, in your heart, you are not happy.
No.
When you need, external validation, especially as a woman, when you are just trying to go out and put on an outfit, and you need to be out every single weekend flaunting yourself, you need to be dating all these different guys, hooking up, you're not happy. And as much as you can try to convince me of that, I know you're not, because I lived that. And instead of me, leaving hate comments and judging people, I would love to be able to have a platform where I can just talk about how I got to where I am, and like, my struggles with just my own identity and my sexuality and all of these things that so many of us deal with. But there's not enough even education online for people to even feel, comfortable talking about that with someone, because it is such a taboo topic. We're living in a day and age where we're supposed to just like
Go with it.
go with it and just be like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, like everything's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
That's not. And I think too, it was interesting. I don't know why I just wanted to mention this, but we were talking about like Epstein and how people will come forward and say that they're crazy. But it's also very interesting to see how the media will like attack certain people that have a very powerful voice, like before they're going to come forward or something. I see that literally happening right now with Justin Bieber, which is
Mm.
something that
I
I
that
just
case.
mentioned.
Mm.
What'd you say? Yeah, well, he's being, like, completely demolished. Him and also his, like, wife are being completely attacked online right now for whatever reason, and it's very sad to see that, because I think that the media, they do that on purpose in order to, like, discredit someone's voice, paint them out as crazy, kind of make them seem like they have all of these mental struggles and all of this stuff. And he is very sad for me, because I can completely see the path that he went through, and I don't even know if we'll ever fully know the extent of it. But he's another case of like Hollywood preying on a very vulnerable, very talented individual, and just kind of ruining his
Life.
integrity, his soul, his life. Yeah. And another example of like a parent not fully stepping in and
Mhm.
protecting their child, which
Mhm.
that's all Hollywood wants. I mean, they want children who they can mold and shape however they see fit.
Yeah.
That's all they want. They want basically a kid that they can like adopt
Yeah.
and
It's
make their own.
It's just demonic. That's the easiest way to put this. It's just demonic. It's just sacrificial. It's demonic, and everything that they're doing. Like, what's the appeal in a grown man
I
or
don't know.
woman with a kid? Because what, like, if you're not demonic, if you're not just vile to the like maximum degrees, like what is like to me, it's unfathomable. It's always been. It's inherent in me to never see a kid and be like, look at that. You look whatever, whatever. Like, it's
Isn't
just
that
demonic.
crazy? But they're all, I think it's so important to, I'm in my experience with my family, they all came from that abuse.
Mm,
Do I know why I didn't go on to repeat it? No, I don't. Like, I never, I don't know. Like, I don't know why my dad turned out the way he did and I turned out the way I did. It doesn't make any sense to me, because we came from similar childhoods. My mom, like, my grandma did to her what my mom did to me. For some reason, I broke the cycle. I don't know why. Like, I held a lot of survivor's guilt with that too, because I have empathy for my mother now. Like, I'm sad for her. I'm sad for the way that her life turned out. I wish that she could have gotten away from all of that and not repeated that cycle with me. But that's the one thing, there are certain things in life that like I'm just never going to understand, and that's one of them. And it's why do certain people fall victim to that, and become, if I mean, I say, I my mom, like, there's a level of possession within these people, like it's just bizarre. Like, they have almost no empathy and no connection to reality and no way to emotionally connect with you in any way. It's very insidious. It makes my skin crawl, honestly. But um I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I am someone who does have I hold a lot of empathy for people.
Yeah.
Does that mean I want them in my life? No. But it also is like, I don't like to look at people and be like, well, that's, it's incurable. I think everyone can heal. I think everybody can change their life and change their soul and purify themselves. But it's a matter of wanting to
Hmm.
and accepting
Yeah.
and, being able to make amends and have forgiveness. And that is the one thing that I see within these child predators who continue to abuse, is that there's just a lack of a connection to reality, and there's no remorse, and it's almost like they can't even accept what happened to them, so they're not going to accept what they're doing to you. And yeah, there's a line that has to be drawn there, because there is like a reenactment trauma that can happen when people are very young, and like in the early teenage years, if you don't really know what's going on, if this is what you've been taught and lived in, and you go on and repeat that with somebody, there's like peer on peer abuse. But there is a line that has to be drawn once you understand, is this behavior wrong? Yes. Okay. Well, are you going to continue to do it? Because if you continue to do it, now you know what's happening. But I don't know. And I have always really struggled with that. And I know a lot of people have, because I can see like the humanity within some of my family members. But that was probably one of the hardest parts in my recovery, was, how could you do this to me? Like, how could you give birth to me and do this to me and exploit me and put me in harm's way? How? And I will never understand, because I'm never gonna do that, Like, I'm never gonna understand what that's like to have a child and abuse them and put them in an environment where I'm just gonna take all their money.
Yeah.
Now that I am in recovery and living my life, then go and defame them on the internet and stalk them and like, I'm never gonna know what that's like. But I don't know. I really don't understand, but I think that it's important to talk about it. And
Absolutely.
also, it's not like you're not the enemy by talking about these things. Like, I'm not trying to paint my family out as these monsters. That's never something I want to do. Once upon a time I did, because I had so much hatred and rage within me. But at this point in my life, like, all that hatred and rage, all it does is, it doesn't do anything to them. Like, all it does is hurt me more in the process. And I think trying to have some idea of forgiveness is a great thing. I think forgiveness is, everybody has their own journey with it. But all I want to do with my life and my story now is just use it to educate people, so that hopefully, we can just have a healthier society, and stop poisoning our children with whatever the media is trying to poison them with.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And like forgiveness, I think forgiveness is underrated, because
Mm.
people kind of just they're giving up on forgiveness. They're going the other route. They're thinking, I'm not gonna forgive you because, they're giving into the rage. They're giving into like the flesh. They want that instant gratification. But forgiveness is so important. It's such it holds such a strong healing power. People don't realize that sometimes. Forgiveness is what's gonna set you free. But a lot of times people think forgiveness is for them, but forgiveness is more for you than it is for them. You know what I mean? So it's incredible, because yeah, so with sexual abuse, that's something that I had to learn, and it was not easy, but I had to learn it very early on, because it was just a constant, like the moment it would come back up, like the memories, like the emotions, I would know what to do with them. And as far as my abusers, like I don't have access to them. And even if one or two of them, even though I had access to them, I could call them, I was positive, and still am, that they would not give me anything to satisfy everything I was feeling. Because you talk about like that generation of just like they were abused, their parents were abused, like then they're doing it to you and stuff. Like it's like hurt people. So for me to talk to them, it would just be like I don't think they have reached that level that I have reached to see, wow, this is what I went through. That was not okay. This is the path that I need to be on. I need to get out of there at all costs. They're not there. As far as I know, they're still living that life, which is very, very sad. But I had to get my own closure. I had to get my own forgiveness and process and not waiting for them to give me anything. Like, you don't want to feel like your happiness, your freedom depends on somebody else. Like, the key to your freedom is into somebody else's hands because you're waiting for them to give you an apology. You're waiting for them to like, hey, I'm sorry for doing that. They may never be sorry. They may never realize what they've done to you. And so you cannot live your life holding grudges or not forgiving them or you yourself not moving on, because if you do that, again, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get anything. So, or you're not going to do anything with your life. You're just going to live your life in this perpetual hatred and just anger and just grudgeful and just being miserable to everybody else around you, missing out on opportunities and all the other great things happening in your life. Man, it's crazy, right?
So many people. I mean, that's so many people. And that's also like the environment I grew up in. Like I actually just connected to someone from my childhood who knew me when I was a kid, like very well,
Mm-hmm.
was like a brother to my mom and probably one of the most validating individuals I could have spoken to, because he was somebody who was actually in close contact
Mm-hmm.
with me, which was rare. And he's completely on my side now, which is an amazing thing. But he said, like, my family was the most rage filled, hateful group of people. Like, my grandma in particular just hated
Hmm.
everything
Yeah.
and everything and everyone and hated me, and it really, I mean, it eats away at your soul when you're just filled with that much hatred and rage. And
Mhm.
when you don't try and heal that, it just completely consumes you until that's all you know.
Yeah.
And like that's how I had to do a lot of healing with that. I mean, my mom, she raised me to see everyone as competition, and I still to this day struggle with that sometimes, with competing and judgment and all of these things that I was raised with. I mean, when you're taught that everyone is your enemy and everyone hates you,
Yeah.
it takes a lot to rearrange your brain to understand that that's actually not the way things are. Like, not everyone is out to get you. But exactly what you said, like, forgiveness is not about them, it's about yourself.
Yeah.
And also forgiving myself for the ways that I went on to hurt myself
Mhm.
as I got older, and the shame that I carried. The shame was the worst
Yeah.
thing for me. The shame of like, why did I do this to myself? Or especially my abuse as I got older, because it's so different when you're in your like teenage years as opposed to when you're a child. It just feels different, and I carried so much guilt and shame for a lot of the things that I went through. And forgiveness is not, it's not about them. Like, my mom isn't, probably will never say she's sorry for anything for as long as she will ever live. Like, I was taught that I was raised in a perfect home with a perfect family,
Yeah.
and if anyone's the victim, it's gonna be my mother.
Yeah.
So, for me, forgiveness was, giving myself permission to move forward,
Mhm.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's giving myself permission to move forward with my life and take these dark experiences and hopefully make something light out of them, because why else did they happen? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what else am I supposed to do with all this? Like, if you're not gonna go on and repeat the cycle, you're gonna live in
Miserable.
pain
Yeah, it's gonna be
and
a
hatred,
miserable life. Yeah.
or you can turn it on its head and say, "I'm gonna make the world a better place."
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna try my best. And you know what? It's like, it's happening. Like, from an online presence and the stuff that I did, the podcast I did with my friend, the response was incredible.
Mhm.
And I'm a musician, so I write my own music,
Mhm.
which I hope to, kind of go into one day, just kind of fully focus on that. But I tour a kind of like unconventional Patsy Cline tribute show, an old country singer. And I'm able to use, when I have 200, 300 people in a room, I talk about my life and I'm able to say, like, I also am very passionate about, child advocacy, and I have podcasts out if you want to go and listen to them, and they do. And then you're spreading more awareness and education
Fantastic.
in places that, like, in the middle of, South Dakota, in places where these are not normal conversations. I mean,
Right.
we are not talking about child trafficking and child sexual abuse. And when I have a room full of a demographic that is a lot older than me, and I'm getting messages after the show saying, I listened to your podcast, like, thank you so much. I went through this too. From people who are in their 60s, 70s, finally able to confide in someone. I mean, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
amazing, and that's just why I love, doing this. Even if some people don't understand it, then they're like, well, something should be kept private.
Right.
And I'm like, why?
Yeah. Well, not everybody's gonna understand that we know. And so, but if we let that thought kind of stop us from doing this, I think again, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And we're doing the people who are hunger to hear what we have to say a huge disservice. So I think it's fantastic that, you're doing that. And I'm very happy to be where I am right now to have started this journey because I'm at the infancy. I'm at the very beginning of all of this, but it's filled with excitement, you know?
Me
Yeah, and here's a question for you. So, what would you tell your younger self now, knowing what you know now? Like, if you could look back and see your little younger self, what would you tell her?
That was something I did in therapy. They told me to print out photos of myself when I was a kid
Mhm.
and have them around my house and just like talk to her, which I know sounds crazy,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's actually it's very healing.
yeah,
I mean, I know it's cliche, but it's going to be okay. It will be okay.
yeah,
And I think the only thing I wanted when I was a kid was just love. That was
mm,
all I wanted.
yeah.
It
That's
was
what any
all
kids want.
all I wanted. And I'm not gonna lie either and say that life is easy. It's not. And I am somebody who I'm a soldier. Like, I think I was never allowed to cry as a kid. And if I did, I would get hurt because of it. And there was like one or two ways it would go down. It was like I would cry until I started puking,
Mm,
and then I would numb out, or I'd get hit, or, I was just taught to not show weakness. So I think for myself, that message of it's going to be okay, because it's not going to be perfect. Like, and I think that that's something too, I'm trying to be more real with, because I do struggle a lot still. And when you have a family who is actively trying to defame you for years, I was not even allowed to show emotion talking about my life because I was so scared to show anything that could be that I was erratic or upset, because I have my entire identity being, it's crazy, like, the mental toll that that takes on you. But I think for me at this point in my life, I want to be able to be more vulnerable about what I go through on a day-to-day basis.
mhm,
My life, yes, it's beautiful. It is still very difficult.
mhm.
And I've almost trained myself to like shut everything down still at like 26, because I almost feel like I'm not even allowed to to talk about the hardships I go through because I'm like a crybaby or a victim, or people don't believe me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
I was just thinking the other day, I remember I was so upset and I was like, wow, I mean, I have no family. Like, I don't have that I don't even know what it's like to have a relationship with somebody who is your blood. Like, I don't. And that takes a really intense toll on someone, but it also I cut people off really easily because of it.
Mhm.
And I almost wanted to post about that because I think it's a lot of people go through, but I didn't do it because I was like, I didn't want the response back, and I didn't want to give my family the opportunity to come online and be like, "Juliette, we love you. You need help. You need therapy," because that's what they're
Yeah.
this narrative that
Right.
they paint of me,
Yeah.
which again is like completely irrelevant and not even I know it's like it doesn't even affect me like it used to, but there's that deep rooted
Mhm.
almost like self-hatred that that was instilled within me where like I'm not even allowed to pretend like any of this has ever affected me, which is so crazy because you need to cry, you need to be
Yeah.
upset, you
Mhm.
need to scream, you need to experience all these emotions, but I was taught so early on to just shove it down, shove it down, shove it down
Yeah.
that I'm hoping to get to a place where I can be more vulnerable with the way that I'm feeling, especially with my close relationships and my friends,
Mhm.
because you can only go so far with people until you really start connecting on a soul level about shared experiences. But I know that's something a lot of people go through because when you go through sexual abuse,
Mhm.
sometimes you just want to pretend it didn't happen. So you
Yeah.
detach all
Yeah.
emotion from it.
No, that's
And it's so confusing too when you do process it because you're like, I don't even know how to feel. Like, how do you even process this?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely a thing. And again, like if there's at least in what people are able to see, like in the stats, it does talk about all those things. How, it's easier to just like keep everything to yourself. You make so many excuses, and those excuses are so validated enough to keep you in that hole that you are and for you to keep suffering in silence. So that's absolutely a thing. And everything that you saying that's just I think it's so true, and I love the fact that you're being so vulnerable because that's how people listening to this are gonna feel, and I know that for a fact because that's how I feel, that's how you feel, and if anybody who's been abused in any capacity, you will relate to everything that you just said. So I think it's great. What I know you said you're more agnostic, but you kind of finding your way in there as far as
Spiritual
spiritually.
journey.
Yeah.
Well, I was also raised, so New Jersey is very Catholic,
Mhm.
like Italian is very Catholic.
Yeah.
There was that. I kind of grew, but not really. Like everything in my life was kind of a facade to make it look like things weren't the way that they were.
Sure.
But I think that's something too that I want to just start exploring now that I'm getting older is kind of my spiritual journey and my connection and what I believe in and what my values are because truthfully, I've just been focusing on like trauma work and sobriety. And now that I'm kind of out of that world, it's like, okay, I want to see what,
Yeah.
just build that relationship and see
Yeah.
where it leads. But anyway, ask your question.
Yeah. Well, the question is, what role did spirituality play into your
I,
recovery? So you see, you say everything, and I was about to tell you this. So, like, as you are on this journey, I talk about this in my book, and I would not be able to sit here and tell you that my faith didn't have
right.
probably the biggest part to play in it as to me getting over that massive hurdle. So for
Right.
me, spirituality, my faith, my connection with God had everything to do with it. So because that's where I got the strength, that supernatural strength. Because like, it's not easy to just want to forgive somebody
Yes.
without that person feeling any sorts of remorse or talking to you about anything. Like that doesn't come naturally to us as humans. Like we want something supernatural. Like for me, that was God. So like I prayed a lot. I did journaling. I listened to worship music. So I was I was raised a Christian. But that's we can go deeper into that because it's crazy to think that even though I was in that environment and that could happen to me. But that's where people also get it wrong. People put so much trust into fellow humans, like your pastor, your deacon, whatever. Those people are may be ordained by God or whatever. They like that's their job. They preach the message and stuff like that. But don't get it twisted. They make mistakes. They sin. They're just as flawed as we are. So always try to cultivate. So I guess that would be before you answer the question. So like for me, I would tell you as you are on this journey, try to do it right. Not that it's easy to do it right because it's a continuous learning experience. You're never really going to master faith, but try to focus on that and try to take away the human nature off of it, out of it, because it is like a one-on-one relationship between you and God. No one else is involved in it. Other people can help you get there by supporting you spiritually, but at the end of the day, it's just you and God, because He's the
Right.
only one who can see what's in your heart, not your
And
not your
that's
friend, not anybody.
exactly
So, but yeah, go ahead. So, what role does you said
right.
spirituality played a huge role?
So I was in I got sober, it was March 27th of I don't know, 4 years ago. I don't
Mhm.
even know what year we're in.
2025.
20 I have no idea. I've always been a very like a very aware child. So
Mhm,
even as a kid, like everybody could always say sense that. And I'm just not just saying that to say that. Like it's been a real thing
mhm,
since I was a kid. Like I had a that's what's hard is that I can't say I had discernment, with people,
mhm,
like, because of how much abuse I went through, but there was something about me that I had a strength within me that you would never know. Like, I would go to work every day when I was a kid, when I was working in theater. I just had, like, the most brightest, radiant personality, and that's something that, I don't know, I struggle with a lot because it is sad that I just wanted to be, like, happy and fun and loved, and I was going back to this, like, demonic home every single night.
mhm,
But from a young age, I've never doubted, I don't know, I've never really doubted a higher power. I definitely did as I got older,
mhm,
but as a kid, I remember, um, I would pray every night. I would pray for God to put me in one of my books.
mhm,
And that's something that always, like, stuck out to me because I would pray for God to make me max and maximum ride. And it's so sad because, like, I was praying for death before I even conceptualized what that was. And that was something that I always remember doing. So, like, and my mom, like, we weren't, I don't remember being taught to pray every night. Like, it was just something that I would do. I think it brought me a sense of peace because of what I was involved in, and my mom abused me every night. I slept with her in her bed until I was, like, in my late teens, so that was always something I remember having when I was younger, but when I went into recovery, that was when I think everything kinda changed for me because I didn't have anything. So I had to put everything I had into a higher power that I didn't even understand.
right,
It's the first I mean, I talked about this in the podcast, but, I felt like something spoke through my friend that allowed me the ability to accept what had happened to me because I finally confided in someone. This was, like, after my last night drinking, horrible, horrible experience, just suicidal, trying to get hit by a car, 5150, got brought to the hospital. It was a disaster, and I finally had a moment of surrender, and I was able to confide in someone and say, like, I think I may have been molested when I was a kid. And my friend, like, without hesitation, I barely even knew her, just said, "Was it your mother?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no."
mhm,
Um, and I don't, again, like, I don't want this to sound, crazy or anything, but we went to a church and I was still with her. And I remember the preacher, I don't know what
mhm,
why are you denying the truth? Like, why don't you just
mhm,
accept it? And it literally just, like, it was the craziest thing. Like, my brain, it felt like it had just unlocked.
mhm,
And really what had happened was I just surrendered for a second and just accepted what had happened to me because it's not like I forgot anything. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's a topic of conversation that all my memories came back to me, which we never really forget any of this stuff. It's just the brain only allows you to remember when you can handle it. But for me, it was like the first time I had officially been away from my mom for an extended amount of time. And my body was just like out of survival mode. And my brain was just ready to freaking, let it all out. But I was standing in that service and I finally just had that connection. And I started laughing and then I started crying and then I almost passed out. And I went back to the hospital on like a PTSD episode, and that is when my life just changed. It was like I was completely at the mercy of a higher power. That was it. Like that was all I could do, was just put one foot in front of the other and try to understand what was going on. And again, like this is a whole other story, but just the amount of work that I had to do in the next 2 years to just get myself to safety as I was actively being harassed and stalked. And I mean, I have a restraining order now, which is a miracle, but I all I did every single day was just I literally was just at the mercy of a higher power. And funnily enough, after that had happened, I went back to the hospital. A couple days later, I went back to that same church to I don't even know what I was doing. I was like, I need to pray. Like, I feel like that's the right thing to do in this situation. I had a really awful experience. I don't even want to go into it, but it was like a fantasy that popped up in my mind that was so dark and twisted, and it was just horrible. It was a sexual fantasy. It was just I don't know how to explain it. It was just so dark. But I went and I was like, I need to like pray. I didn't know what to do. Felt like I was losing it. I got to talking to the woman at this church. I think she was like the greeter or something. And I said that I had just taken a break from drinking. I hadn't accepted that I had a problem at all.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, well, there's an AA meeting behind this place tonight." And I was like, "Oh,
Good.
okay." I took it as a sign. I'm like, well, guess I need to check this out because that's weird. So that started my relationship with AA, and I was in and out of those rooms. But like I was going to AA probably twice a day for 2 years in Nashville. Like I was after that moment and that conversation, that was my home group. That's where I found my first sponsor. Um, and one of the beautiful things that I loved about AA was that the first step is like as you surrender to a higher power of your understanding. And through that, freedom and that experience, I was able to really just, I don't know, just start that walk. And I had so much, I felt like I was poisoned. And even my thoughts, it was like I couldn't escape my childhood. It was like every single second I was just trying to fight thinking about what had happened to me. And I never thought that I would get out of that place because it was like all consuming, but I'll be honest, like I mean if it was not, I would be dead. Like if it was not for God, I would be dead. I don't know how I'm alive. I genuinely don't know how I've survived my life. Like it makes no sense. These stories I could tell you about the experiences I have had, and like I had an angel watching out for me, and I've known that. Like I know that I have a very strong angel that's with me every single day. I know that. I know who she is. Like she is with me. And that is truly in my darkest times when I did not want to live anymore, what kept me pushing. And my dog. My dog came into my life in 2020. He is like he's like anointed. I don't there's something within my dog that he's like, "Hey, I'm here." He got me. He was the first thing, well, as soon as he came into my home, he protected me from my mom. He would not let my mom near me. So he would guard my door at night. He would lay on my bed. He would not let her near me. He wouldn't let her hug me, nothing. And he also did the same thing with my dad. My dad wasn't really in my life anymore, but we took a trip home to New Jersey. He got way too close to me and my dog immediately defended me. So he was sent into my life truly to protect me. I've had him for 5 years now. He got me out of my relationship with my ex too. He hated that man. My ex couldn't even walk into the room without my dog growling from his crate. Like it was my dog, honestly, I think was, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I'd be here, because when you have no family, like, and I was in those dark, dark, dark times
Mhm.
was what kept me going, and because I was just he's a shelter pit bull. He
Yeah.
was nobody was
Pitbull, huh?
taking him.
Yeah.
If it wasn't if something happened to me, nobody's taking this dog. He's like South Central LA shelter, bottom of the barrel, scarred up, 80 pounds. He's like a he's a monster.
Bodyguard.
But yeah, he's the best. He's written into all my contracts for all my shows. They need to get me dog friendly lodging. He comes everywhere. He is my like he's my baby. I just love him to death. But no, I mean I if it I put everything into my higher power, everything. And I talk about that so much. And I think that there definitely is a big conversation happening about that now. I see a lot of people starting to just open their eyes to the idea of a higher power. All of my friends are like that, you know, even if we're all in different varying walks.
Mhm.
I think everybody I know is very much so awake and aware to that. But I mean, that's the one thing that's undeniable in my life is a higher power. There's without a doubt, literally without a doubt. I definitely have had moments where I'm like, why is this happening when,
Yeah.
you know,
Of course.
but I mean, once I'm out of that mentality and I'm able to ground myself in reality, it's like, yeah, there's literally no way. Even I'm really big into numerology.
Mhm.
I don't know like that I don't know anything about it. I just 44 is my number. It's
Mhm.
followed me around for years. I've literally made like major life decisions based on that number. And 111 was something that's pops up in my life a lot. And you literally sent me the invitation for this podcast at 111. And I was like, well, yeah. I,
That's
I texted,
crazy.
yeah, I texted my friend Kelly Dillon and I was like, you're not gonna believe this. Cause we did our podcast and that kept coming up. Like we took like a bathroom break at 111. It just kept happening. It was one of those things. But then you sent me the invitation for this and I was like there's no way. What? And I'm also very cautious about who I talk to and where I bring my voice because I never want to have a conversation with somebody who could take what I say and twist it
Mhm.
or convolute it or do you know how people are? I mean,
Conniving.
so for me, that was I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. Like, I'm sure this is a nice guy, you know?
That's crazy. So, hey, um, I'd like to think that I am, and I've lived my life in a way where um, I try to do everything that I can to keep regrets out of my life. And if I'm gonna have regrets, it's just because it just was meant to happen. It's out of my control. I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to family. Like I think from everything that I've said so far, that gives you a pretty good idea how like I'm a God fearing man. I love my family. I'm gonna do everything for them.
For so long, I had to pretend like nothing was wrong. I had to pretend like I was comfortable auditioning for provocative role. I was a teen. I had to pretend like that was okay. And it's not at all. Like literally at all. So happy. I did an episode with my friend Kelly on it that also went super viral because we
Mhm.
talked about a specific actor, James Franco, who preyed on me when I was 16 and he was like 35 or something. And that he's been blacklisted in Hollywood for years, but that clip in particular went crazy and there were like articles posted about it. It was nuts. We never expected that. But
Crazy.
again, people are listening and
Yeah, for sure.
I hate the fact that so much of that just gets to go on and be perpetualized and like
Yeah.
no one says anything because people need to expose it and there's not enough actors talking about it.
No, well, there's not enough people talking about what we're talking about at all. Again, because negativity sells. This doesn't sell,
Yeah.
which is crazy, right? Like the one thing that can actually help you, you're not promoting it. But the thing, let's talk about just politics and just let's just go on one side and then just like monkey hurl feces at the other side, telling them how terrible they are. And you can sit there, listen to a bunch of people just talking about how horrible this one person is over and over. They have just energy, just talk negative. Oh, this person's this person that. I can't believe they call themselves some sort of like analyst, some kind of expert. You're an expert at just bringing people down. That's what you are. You're not like, you're just talking bad about people. Again, it's not that people are not bad and you cannot talk about when people are bad, but how much good are you talking about? Or are you just waiting for that moment to just speak ill, to just talk nasty about people? That's how you make your money. That's who you are. To me, that was never a legacy that I want to leave behind. I talk about how bad it is to have a victimhood mentality. I'm not talking about any particular person. I'm not insulting people. I'm trying to shine the light on, this is a type of way that you're living. I can see how bad it is. Let me tell you about the freedom there is on the other side of that. So there's a difference. I'm not like pinpointing to like, this person is stupid, this person is this. No, I'm not doing that. And I, to me, I just don't have the time, and I don't think it's conducive. It's not helping society when people are
Right.
just so nasty to each other.
No, not at all. And that's also, an interesting thing too, like growing up in Los Angeles politically,
Mhm.
you don't have any freedom to think any way. Like if there's one way to behave, there's one way to act, there's one way to think, and that's it.
Yeah.
Truly, I mean, that's not something I'm just saying to like, it's completely the way that it is. And everyone, you need to be comfortable, with your sexuality being whatever it is that they tell you it's going to be. And also politically, like you need to believe a certain set of opinions, and that's it. And if you speak out, even in like a neutral way, you're not going to work. And that's why so many, what the thing about me and what's different about me is that I am not trying to be an actress anymore. There are a lot of actresses who are speaking out about things that have gone on,
Mhm.
but they still want to be a part of the industry. So they can't fully dive in
No, they can't.
because which to me is like, you got to go big or go home. Because if you're trying to still play that neutral line, we're not really going to see the change that we need because you're still essentially like dancing with the devil. Like you're just trying to keep everything at bay so nobody fully comes for you. Because I've seen, people talk about certain, individuals being predators and stuff like that. But because they're still trying to be a part of the industry, they're not really diving into how the infrastructure of Hollywood is just overrun with child predators. I mean, I don't even know how you can deny that at this point, but that's what's very confusing for me is that I want to see these child actors coming forward and completely demolishing, like, they know more than me. They have the power to do that, and yet either they're still in the industry and pop stars and probably repeating the cycle now, and exploiting the next generation, or they still want to be a part of it, and if you still wanna be a part of it,
Mm.
you can't fully speak on it, because if you do, you're literally never gonna work again. I just dropped my agent, like, finally. I dropped my agent when I first went into recovery, like, my agent and my manager, I had professional representation for everything. Dropped them. I re-signed a couple years later, last year, to a new agent and wound up dropping them a couple weeks ago because truthfully, I cannot align with the beliefs
Yeah.
of Hollywood. And I don't even want to be, if I were to act again one day, which I believe I will, like I would love to take on projects that speak to me
Mhm.
and I connect with and like are spreading education or awareness or positive message. But, I just, at this point in my life, I cannot be a part of it. And I also don't want to silence my voice in any way because I am like actively auditioning for roles. No one was booking me either. If you do a quick little Google search of my name, no producer is gonna want me to walk onto their set. Like, it's just they're not gonna want it.
Well,
They're like, "This girl,
yeah, not after those podcasts, Yeah, no.
the horrors of Hollywood, like, no one
Yeah,
wants me."
right.
Maybe a great production, a healthy production
Yeah,
who
yeah.
value in that, and I absolutely think that that is going to happen one day. I fully believe that I'm going to be a part of really beautiful, amazing projects that are, like, doing a lot of good and are not over sexualized or anything like that. You don't need to see any of that. Everything can be hinted at. There's
Yeah.
beautiful ways to do it editorially where you don't need to watch stuff like that on screen.
Or imagination. You can think of it. You see two people walk in the room, they're like,
We don't need to watch it
we don't
play
need to
out.
watch it. Yeah, we don't need to watch it. We can,
Understand.
yeah, exactly. They're
I
just
don't
porn. So
understand.
like that's what it is. They want to, oh, if you see that, just you can just go watch the whole thing now and an actual porn set and stuff. It's just they're just like it's just I don't know. They're disgusting. But we're gonna leave that for next week.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, there's that whole other
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. So we're gonna leave that for next week. I'll have let me I think I have another question for you and then we can wrap up here. So how did you think everything that you went through affected your relationship? I know you're not in one now, but like your ex-boyfriend.
Oh my gosh.
How was that?
You know, it like I said, I was warned so many times. I was like, there's one type of man that you're gonna attract because of what you came from.
Mhm.
And I was so unwilling to see the red flags of that when I first met him.
Mhm.
We had an incredibly fast relationship. I was only with him for around 8 or 9 months, but I moved in with him in like a month. Like it was incredibly quick.
Mhm.
And the thing that because I had never been intimate with anyone before
Mhm.
besides everything I experienced as a kid, I felt like emotionally stunted in a way. It was very weird. I wish I could explain this fully, but I do think people who like they'll get it. Like they
Yeah.
will get it when I'm talking about this. Like I felt so naive and immature
Mhm.
because I had never experienced a relationship with a man my own age. Every time I would talk to a man, it was like I would almost regress into that child I once was, which was something I learned like in recovery. It was like, why is this guy 2 years older than me, but I feel like I'm 10 years old right now? And it was because of how I was taught to behave as a kid.
Mhm.
I would immediately regress back to that. Even with my ex, I had these rose-colored glasses right from the jump.
Mhm.
And when I told you, you know, how I felt during that relationship, like I was dating my dad, that was pretty much what happened, was that anything I thought about him, I couldn't accept the fact that he could have a fault, like right from the beginning. Like he was just this perfect Prince Charming who came into my life and he was meant to be there. And we were in love and we're gonna fall in love and we're gonna get married. And it was like I was a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm all for romance and love and beautiful, you know,
Yeah.
love stories,
Yeah.
but mine was coming from a very regressive place, which I'm sure so many of us go through. It's just not something I've ever really seen talked about, which is like entering a relationship as an adult, but having the mentality of a child. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I don't have that anymore though. So that's why like I don't regret this relationship at all. It was through that relationship that I was able to kind of find my strength and my footing, I think, especially with men, because again, from a very young age, I was taught that whatever they did was fine. And I was just like there, you know? And I remember being in that relationship. It wasn't until I got out of it that I accepted how abusive it really was. But I remember we would have these fights and it was like I would come up with every single excuse in the book for him. I would not accept that he was treating me poorly whatsoever. And if he was, like, if my friend said he was, well, he's been through so much trauma and, you know, all of this. And I would lie
Mm.
to protect him. And it was literally what I have done with what I did with my dad and how he was the most handsome, perfect man. And I was treating my ex essentially the same way when it was the same thing. Like I have to make this comparison because it's so fascinating.
Mhm.
When I was around, I think I was around 17, my dad came to visit me in Los Angeles and I had a friend there at the time, and I told her he was coming to visit, and I was like, just bizarre. She told me later on how weird it was that I was saying how handsome he was and how funny he is. It was like I was in love with him because I was. Like, my brain was all messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But she told me after my podcast came out, she was like, "Juliette," none of my friends were surprised, but she told me, she was like, I'll never forget that because he showed up and I thought he was so weird. Like, you're expecting this,
Mm-hmm.
wealthy CEO, movie star, kind of dude to walk in. And that was not my father. I mean, at that time, he was very insecure and very uncomfortable around people. He was just not really that guy anymore. I think he might have been when he was younger, but she just told me, point blank, like,
Yeah.
dude was a weirdo. Like, he was not anything like you expressed or explained.
Yeah.
Same exact thing happened with my ex. It was the same exact thing. After I talked him up, all of this stuff, he's the most perfect, he's so handy, he's so this, my friends would meet him and be like, "What are you doing?"
What are you looking at?
It was the same exact thing I did to
Mhm.
protect myself.
Hmm.
And that's why I have such empathy for women who stay in abusive relationships because they just don't, they can't see it. And a girl just came forward about this and she said, if he puts his hands on you, he will kill you. Like, there's no, that is an easy trajectory for them. And I always said, literally, I always said, I was like, as soon as a guy puts his hands on me, I will walk out that door immediately.
Yeah.
Know what I did? I stayed. And like, that is the craziest thing because I was so addicted to him that I couldn't even, that was like my number one thing I always said. If he goes to hit me,
Mm-hmm.
grab my neck, shake me, and I would even tell my friends who were in relationships like that, like, if he ever hits you, if he ever does anything remotely violent, you need to leave. And he got so mad at me one time. I was like a month and a half into, this is so nice to talk about. I don't think I really talked about this on a podcast before. He got so mad at me for no reason. I literally was just asking me if he was okay because I could tell he was upset.
Yeah.
He grabbed the back of my neck and shook it and was just like, "Stop." And looked like he was like, and so mad. And he ran. We were in a restaurant. He like ran out of the restaurant and didn't talk to me. We were with a friend at the time, wouldn't talk to me um, until we got back to the Airbnb. This was after I had done a performance, actually, which was something that also went hand in hand. Whenever I did something really big,
Mm-hmm.
he would try and ruin it. It was a thing that happened every single time I had a show. But we got back into the room and he still wouldn't talk to me. And like, I wish I could put you in my brain right now. It was like I was just reliving my childhood. Like, why does my mom hate me? Like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I
Mm-hmm.
do? Like, what did I do to make her so mad? It was the same exact thing. And he was just sitting there, I remember, on the bed. He didn't even want to eat. He wouldn't speak to me. And I'm trying to laugh and joke around because I had just done this great show
Sure.
and finally laid down to go to bed. And he just lost his mind and was screaming and yelling. And there was a gun next to the bed, and I was terrified for my life. Like, I genuinely thought he was going to kill me. And I remember I started sobbing, and he was like, "Did you think I was going to hurt you? Like, why would you think I would hurt you? Like, what
Jesus.
does that mean? I'm a bad guy?" Like, so then I'm consoling him, even though I have every right to believe that this man would hurt me.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. For sure.
He meant like,
That's
so I went from my childhood to recovery to a relationship like that, and it only got worse. I mean, the emotional and psychological pain and manipulation only got worse. I ended that relationship September of last year. It took me 2 months to get my personality back. Like, I was so drained by the end of it because I felt like I am not somebody to play the victim card either. Like, I will bring to the table when I did things wrong, if I did
yeah.
things wrong. But in this particular situation, I was incredibly vulnerable, very naive. It was my first relationship I had ever been in besides all of the abuse I had went through as a kid, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Like, he went for as soon as he got me where he wanted me, as soon as I started living with him, it was like a switch went off, and it was all of a sudden I was not it was like I wasn't what he wanted anymore, but he, like, resented me for some reason, even though nothing had changed. It was just, he was unable to get past himself and his own demons to treat me like. Also, I would never in a million years do what I did. Like, I would never enter a relationship like that again. He pressured me into sex. That was something too. It was, he knew it was my first time besides the abuse I had went through, and I think it took 3 weeks, and he, like, gave me a hard time about it 2 weeks in, and he was like, "Well, you've made me wait this long," as if like, and I honestly, I'm the type of person now where I'm like, that's not even on the table in the
It
cards
should
at all.
Yeah, it should not be. No.
And but I was with someone who it felt, and that's what's so sad, is that it felt so normal. Like, I felt guilty, and that's why, like, I wasn't even comfortable the first time, but I did it because I felt that childhood, like, "Oh my gosh, what am I
Yeah.
doing? I need to give him what he
Yeah.
wants, like, he's gonna hate
It's
me."
the pressure you feel. Yeah.
Crazy, but it's all from those childhood wounds coming up, and, I mean, just to, like, from the sexual abuse I went through and entering a sexual relationship with him, it was so dark, so convoluted. It was so awful. Like, I did things I can't even believe I did them. And they go against all of my morals,
Mm.
everything I believe in. I would never, ever put myself in a situation like that again. But I did it because that is how dangerous relationships are like that. And that's how dangerous sex is when you don't have a connection with yourself and your body and you haven't done that inner healing, because
Yes.
you will put yourself in situations
Yeah.
that are so dangerous and unhealthy, and they made me
Mm.
worse. Like, it made it
Mm.
worse. Now I don't even, with men, like, that's not even something on the table
Right.
at all.
Right.
But I don't on one hand, I'm like, I'm very grateful I had this experience so that it never has to happen again. But on the other hand, it goes to show that when you are naive and vulnerable and you're entering a relationship like that, how easy it is for someone to just use your past trauma to their advantage. Because, I mean, I literally had a conversation with him about how he went too far with something in the bedroom, and he wouldn't talk to me for like days because I had insulted him. And it was,
I tell you what, I'm very happy that you're not in that relationship. Whatever you've learned from that relationship, that's great.
yeah,
And I'm glad that you did. But I'm very happy you're not in it, because there's nothing about that relationship that sounded like it was a
dark.
healthy relationship.
No,
And
so important to talk about,
right.
because I don't even think, when you don't come from any healthy depiction of a relationship whatsoever,
Yeah.
that to me was like better than, you know?
Right. And it's called and everything again, balance, obviously, foundation, those two things, those are like two of my favorite words. But you don't have the guardrails, right? You need the guardrails to tell you, like, okay, when sex does happen, the comfortability level is going to be there, the pressure's not going to be there, and it's going to be what's like, again, that's what's like, spiritually speaking, like, the Bible wants you to get married and then have sex. There are a lot of things that would have already been covered by the time you get married, so that when you get to sex, it's happening the way it's supposed to happen. But culture's teaching you, oh no, you got to have sex first and then have married, but you don't even have to get married. But once you do that, you can, it just, everything's just been turned upside down. And again, it's always been that way. But I can make an argument now, with the advent of social media and everything, how accessible everything
Crazy.
is, it's worse. I think everything's worse now, right?
all the dating apps. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. What like I mean, like you name it, like dating apps and like the we talked about it, the OnlyFans, and you have it's incredible. Have you ever watched whatever podcast? I think it's called.
no, I think I've heard of that though.
It's that show is hard for me to watch. Again, they
Okay.
talk about some good things, but it's just they're calling women 304, 304, and I didn't even know what that meant. Like guys would be like, 304, 304. I'm like, what is a 304? So my wife had to tell me, like, it's I think it means the hoe. Like, but they objectify women so much in that show. What they do, they have a whole bunch of like, I don't know, prostitutes, like women off the streets, and then they just degrade them. They just degrade them, just like, and those women, sadly, they're so broken. And that's why, again, if those guys ever watch the show, I don't have any problem or I don't have any beef with any of you guys. I don't care to have a beef with anybody. The fact that you are choosing the most broken women to make a point about how awful they are and how men would not choose them and all these crazy things that you guys talk about, I think it's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. These
That's
women, they need help so that they can. I mean, like you have women trying to make a case that OnlyFans is a great thing. Like they're gonna keep doing it. Nobody can tell them otherwise. People are talking about like body counts, how it's good to have a high body counts because like you have experience and stuff like that. It's good, but like they're making those cases, and I'm just sitting there. Well, I don't really watch a whole show, like clips here and there. Every once in a while, I like to watch those for like market research and kind of like seeing what other people are thinking about, so that when I make a point, I can actually reference it
right.
to you know. But it's just more than ever, it makes me sad to just watch that. You know, they're making a lot of money by bringing these women on, and they're objectifying women, they're degrading women instead of seeing these women like again to their credit, some of the guests that they bring on sometimes are religious backgrounds, so they will talk about how they wouldn't marry somebody like them and stuff like that, but still just the way they do it, to me, it's just sad because you bring in broken women and then just like kind of punishing them and then pointing the finger at them how broken they are and how they're not worthy of certain relationship because of who they're. It's like, to me, it's like, I don't know. It's horrible. Again, but that's what this culture is offering. That's just
There's so much hate. I mean, that's the thing that I
yeah,
see every day is that it's hate and it's judgment and we're all just pointing fingers and yelling at each other and nobody is looking at you're not looking at people with empathy and understanding and trying to but there are people who do that. It's just
for sure.
it's like it's probably really hard if you haven't had the experience. So for me, I can look at women like that and understand where they're coming from and you understand why they are walking the path that they're walking.
Mhm,
I'm I'm absolutely not going to sit in a room and call them a hoe and like make fun of them. Like that's ridiculous. I mean, you're just ignorant and stupid at that point.
mhm.
Like you're just and also I think so many people do that because they are scared and they don't want to accept the reality of what's going on and it's a fear-based mentality but yeah I mean I see that all the time and I see the I mean gosh I can't even really look at my like algorithms are funny now which is nice like I have a pretty dark sense of humor and like I get funny videos and
Yeah,
stuff like that but the culture that I see online and just the absolutely lax way that we treat our bodies and body counts and hooking up and it's just so crazy to me
it
because
is.
we've completely lost what intimacy actually is. And I've literally had girls say to me, be like, well, don't you want to, wouldn't you want to hook up with him first and like see if you even like, you know, and I'm like, what is sex? Like, what are you guys talking about? Intimacy, if you love someone and trust someone and they're your best friend, it's not about what you guys are saying. It's about like we've lost that connection to true intimacy with a partner. And it's not about like, oh my gosh, it's just the way people talk about sex. painful for me, and it makes me so sad. Like, it makes me so sad because I'm always the odd one out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
the odd one out.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I'm always the one who is, I don't participate in hookup culture. I don't find any type of fulfillment or
Mhm.
validation or need to do any of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do want to say I think part of it is because I maybe biologically, I had so much happen to me at a young age. Like, I just never really wanted to do that. But also, I am so, I'm completely sober, and I'm so aware
Mhm.
that the men who want to do that with me are no men that I literally ever want to be around. I do not want a man to look at me and say, I want to take her home right now. Like, that is absolutely not the type of man that I would ever want to marry and have a family with.
Mhm.
Why would I
Yeah.
even entertain someone like that? And additionally, like, why would I be attracted to someone like that who doesn't even value anything about me or my life? Or but I also, I don't understand how to communicate that to someone who truly doesn't see it that way. It's really hard. But I also want to say, like, substances have a lot to do with it. Alcohol has a lot to do with it. Drinking has a lot to do with it. And I think alcohol is one of the most unhealthy things that we can do. It completely, loosens your inhibitions, you lose your morals, you lose your, like, your
Yeah.
boundaries. And when I drank, I was a lot more comfortable being around men, and I didn't really care. But I never hooked up. But I was like, terrified of being touched. I feel like you go one or two ways. You go like hypersexual, or you go like asexual, when you're just like, everyone stay away from me, I'm scared.
I think so. Yeah. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
There's kind of a middle ground sometimes. For me, I was on the side of like, I'm so uncomfortable with
Right.
anyone
Yeah.
touching me. But yeah, I think, all the people I know who participate in hookup culture, it's it directly has to go with drinking and clubbing
Mhm.
and going out,
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I don't want to sound like a Karen, but it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous.
Mhm.
I got roofied at my friend's birthday party at her house. Like, I wasn't even out in public, and she invited a bunch of random guys from Tinder, and
That's a good recipe there.
yeah, I had 2 drinks, and all of a sudden, I, like, don't remember anything. Somehow drove myself home. But it's so incredibly dangerous and toxic, and I literally could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. And I even thought I was, like, in a safe space, because I met my ex, like, organically. I met him at work. I'm a barista.
Mhm.
He was a customer. I trusted it, and it goes to show, like, when you don't have your boundaries set, when you haven't done that inner healing, when you don't have, I honestly, like, a connection to God, a connection to a higher power, morals,
Mhm.
respect for yourself and your body. Even I never thought I'd be that person to fall into a relationship like that, and not out of arrogance or anything. It's just like, I never thought that could happen to me. For some reason, I was like, all the pain was in my past. Like, I'm going to meet Prince Charming and everything's going to be great. And that's not what happened. But it was now, and I know I just said, like, I never thought that would happen to me. Now, though, like, I understand why. It's because I wasn't firm with, what I wanted. And I was still so broken. And I was desperate, absolutely desperate for someone to come into my life and save me. And that's never gonna
N
happen. Like, and it's so painful to even say that, because, like, that was a huge, hope I had as a kid, that Prince Charming would walk in and save me from everything. But it's never gonna happen. And that desperation, combined with that naivety and my pain and my lack and my
Mhm.
insecurity, because I was 24 and I had never had a boyfriend,
Yeah.
or 23. I had never had a boyfriend, and I felt so insecure about that because of what, we see in this day and age. And, the people I was around, like, I just felt very abnormal,
Hmm.
that's what happened. But I'm very grateful that honestly, if it wasn't for my dog, I probably would have married him. I'm not even gonna lie. My dog, if it wasn't for him, I had to move out. Like my dog couldn't even, I almost rehomed my dog. It was a whole
The
mess.
dog has good intuition.
My dog
Yeah.
knows.
Dog,
He doesn't. He is
sniff
a
it.
he
He can
he knew
sniff it from a mile away.
literally, and he liked him for I think the first week or 2, and then as soon as that switch flipped,
Yeah.
it was like he couldn't even go near him. And I mean, I wanna say that because it's true. I wasn't even strong enough to leave. Like, my dog made me strong enough to leave because I couldn't live without my dog.
Mhm.
And everybody was telling me, like, "Juliette, your dog is telling you something. Like, you can't see it yet, but your dog is telling you something."
Absolutely.
His dog didn't hate me, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't the other way around.
His dog was probably save me, save me. I need to be in your home that with him.
No, I'm dead serious. Like, my ex even had said that. He was like, she just loved me because I gave her that love that she needed, and that was something too when you have a partner that's so emotionally broken and non-responsive, you will never get that love, like, ever, that you need, that you crave. I go for avoidant men, and that's from my dad. Like, I know that now. I go for men that are very I can fix them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's terrible. Like, I gotta stop doing that, and I don't plan on doing it again, but that's a very anxious, avoidant attachment thing that I learned about. I'm a very at the time, I was even more anxious than I don't consider myself to be really that anxious anymore, but that anxious, avoidant attachment thing where, like, I wanted a guy who almost or, like, men who were, like, in relationships because it almost made me feel like I was like my mom and my dad's relationship, like I was the chosen one. If they left their partner for me,
Mhm.
it was then more valid. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What people
So,
don't get is the fact that once you've been messed with, and I'm not gonna use
mhm,
the F word, once you've been messed with so hard as a child, people don't have the slightest clue. Even the people who have been messed with, they don't like over time you are learning things are just not the way they're supposed to be. But I don't think you'll ever understand really the full magnitude, the weight of the damage that was done back then, but that was continued to be done or happening to you because
right.
it's just one of those things that once anything that happens before maturity, it's almost bound to just not work. And to make it
Mhm,
work down the road, it takes tremendous molding, tremendous work. And what I mean by that, it's the same thing as like our kids now are seeing just about anything on TikTok, on social media, and stuff like that. Things that their brains have not been developed enough to comprehend and to understand. It doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Now it's just like right here, they have to deal with
right.
that. What did I just watch? How do I compartmentalize that? Where do I put that? Do I start trying it? Like it's just confusion, 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 confusion. And if left untreated, it's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. And the way you're feeling right now, I have bad news for you. Once you have kids, worse, it gets worse because now it's not just you. You have a
Right.
little, just a bunch of them, or one or two, three of them. Just now, I have to be that protector, not just for myself, but what about them? And it just gets so much worse. But at the same time, I implore everybody to have kids. And because that's like the greatest gift that you could ever have, to be able to instill everything that you've learned all throughout the years,
Right.
good and bad. The good you instill, the bad you learn from. You give them the good lesson that they need to learn, so that they don't even have to go through it. It's it's incredible. It's incredible. So I tell you what. From the beginning of this conversation, you know how you felt about like the number 111 and stuff like that. Honestly, the moment you started talking about like your values, and you said you were agnostic, like that was like the one thing I'm like, no.
When you're not religious,
Mhm.
like I'm just kind of, again, I don't really know how to explain where I'm at. And that's why I just always kind of say I'm
Right. Yeah. I think we are human beings. That's my claim. We are inherently spiritual. We are spiritual beings. Now, where we go with that, it's up to us. And
right.
according to the Bible, all good things come from God. So, you wanting to treat somebody with kindness and love, you have to tell me where that came from. It's certainly not
Right.
the devil. The devil wouldn't do it that way.
Right.
And when the devil does it that way, it's because they want to get something back in return, right? But when you treat
Right.
other people with love and kindness, not expecting anything back in return, those are Jesus like characteristics. So I will talk to you off air because I think there's a lot more we need to talk about. But Julia, thank you so much. I think
Thank you so much. This was
yes,
awesome.
yes, and I truly think we're gonna be doing that again, and we're gonna be talking about different topics. And I think the moment people start watching these podcasts, I know it's very long. We're gonna cut it into clips and stuff, so but people would have the opportunity to watch.
This is short for me.
What's that?
I'm not even
This
This is short for
this is
me.
short for you. Wow.
My first episode I did with Kelly was 6.5 hours.
Six
It
and a
was
half
so,
hours. Oh my goodness.
but that was my whole life. Like from birth to now, it was, and I've had a very complicated, and I also have been, because of what I experienced the first time I came forward, we really wanted to lay it all out because I don't want people to be able to doubt my experiences anymore and
Mhm,
say, well, what about this? And what about this? And if this was happening, why weren't you doing this? And why didn't you tell? Like, we laid it all out because I think it was necessary. It was amazing. The response was completely different
mhm,
as opposed to my first podcast I ever did, which was 20 minutes long.
mm,
I was like a public statement. This one, we dove head on into everything and talked about recovery and everything that got me where I am today.
mhm.
So yeah, if anyone's interested, go check that out. I'm so proud of it. But yeah, this was great. I feel like this was a perfect amount of
Yeah,
time
no,
and
absolutely.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I had like a whole bunch of questions, but I'm the kind of guy. My wife talks to me about this all the time. She's like, "Honey, you have to have like a like a structure. Keep
Right.
being in the box. I know it's good, but all the questions, I probably asked you 3 questions out of everything that I had. A lot
Gosh,
of the other ones though that I had, we kind of
we covered.
talked about them all
Right.
throughout the conversation. So I didn't even feel the need to talk about specifics and stuff like that. And I also think that we'll have more time to hopefully go back in and talk about very specific things. Perhaps I might do another TikTok about, just put it out there and then see how people are feeling about very specific questions and then maybe talk about those things. But no, I thought this was great. And again, that's I love conversations. I love just meaningful conversations, right? I'm all about just being goofy and just joking around. That's fun too. But there are times where you really need to talk about serious stuff. And those serious stuff that you think can have just tremendous impact, I think they're very, very important. And I think people should do that more often, just like we're doing that. And we need more podcasts like that. I can't wait for your podcast. And
I'm excited. I think it'll be really, I was trying to find the right first episode because, like, I didn't want to just do it myself for some reason. And I was just at work and I met this girl came up for a coffee and we got to talking and I was like, would you ever be interested in, sitting down and sharing your story? She's 26, she's my age,
mhm,
so like we're kind of on the same timeline and she was all for it. So it was just, again, one of those very serendipitous
mhm, yeah,
happenings that it feels right. And I'm very, again, I'm just very passionate about that. Like it's been so healing and incredible for me to come forward and talk. I want that for everybody, even if it's scary.
yeah,
And I also know how to handle it. I'm like, if you want to protect yourself, like we'll just call everything alleged.
mhm,
If you want names in it or out of it, like it's totally up to you. But, I think it's really important not only to come forward, but to also have the right people to connect
sure,
to. because there are people who will exploit, and there are some really, you know, corrupt individuals who will warp your voice. Yeah, I'm really excited about that, but totally, we could do a time for next week and
Yeah.
a list of questions I'll actually answer. But I think this format is honestly what so many people
I
crave,
think it's
and it's
organic. I like that. Exactly.
doesn't Joe Rogan have the #1 podcast? All he doesn't ask any questions. He just talks like
Exactly.
it's just a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. No, I mean that's precisely how I wanna, like, let's just
Really.
call it that. I wanna take a chapter out of Joe Rogan's book because I like the way he does stuff. He just, if we
Organic,
get to the questions, we get to them, but somehow there's always a way he gets to ask those
right,
questions. He gets to put them in there. And again, to me, it's just conversations. We have conversations. We talk about what we need to talk about, and people get value from everything about. And at the end of the day, if we didn't get to a question or a few questions, we can always go back and talk about them. But what we
right.
did talk about, there's still a ton of values. And so it's not like, oh man, I came to this and they didn't talk about this. Yeah, but you got plenty out of it. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you for watching the channel, everybody. And again, we stand for love, foundation, spiritual values, love for humanity, really, in general. But spread the word. You know how to do that. Like the channel and subscribe. Me and Juliet will be having a lot more talks. And the next one will be about how putrid, let's just call it that, Hollywood is, and how we need to stay away from it.
There goes any job I'll ever want in that
I'm
world ever again.
sorry, but let's create a pure Hollywood.
Yes.
How about that? Because
I'm okay with that.
watch some of your acting, and I think you are tremendous, and
Thank you.
that's talent. So you can't just, just because they don't know how to appreciate that, it doesn't mean that you get to stop. Just like you said, you see yourself still doing it. I'm praying that
Right.
there is a pure form of Hollywood out there.
It will.
All right. Thank you, Juliet. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
and then we'll be talking soon, okay?
Okay,
All
awesome.
right. See you guys. Hey, thank you for Hey, yeah, you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Like, subscribe, and share it. Help me spread the word.